All right, Thursday game night. You already know what's up. Fantasy Exec, Johnny VTV. Let's get it. The Executive Network is now brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Hit the link in the comment section for a 100% deposit match courtesy of the Executive Network and Underdog Fantasy. Win with the Executive Network and Underdog Fantasy this NFL season. Let's get it. Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive, the Royal Mint Casher, Johnny VTV. Shout out to you, Johnny V, last week. 2 Royal Mints. Not only did they come home, the money line as well. Sprinkle Dinkle, what's going on with you, boy?
Yo, Corey Parson, another week, another day, another dollar, baby. Let's get after it. We got a big slate this week. Hopefully week 2 is better than week 1. We didn't see a whole lot of good stuff going on in the NFL to kick off the opening week, but I think we got a lot of better matchups going on here, and we're going to get some good shows, no doubt.
All right, let's get ready to hop right into it. Live line right now, courtesy of FanDuel Sportsbook. We got the Philadelphia Eagles. Wait a minute, the line just jump and move. We got the Philadelphia Eagles laying 6 right now. Philadelphia Eagles laying 6 at home versus the Minnesota Vikings. Currently, the total is sitting at 48.5. What is going to be the critical things to look at, Johnny V, as we try to handicap this matchup? We saw last year, week 2, in a primetime spot, Minnesota coming to the Lincoln Financial Field and get their ass kicked. Is that going to happen again tonight?
You know, are we giving predictions already, or are we going to wait?
We're going to wait till the end of the prediction, so I'm sorry for setting you up that way. Break the game down. Tell me what's offensive line, defensive line, what's the deal here? What are we – injuries, what's going on? What should we be checking for?
I mean, I think, the Philadelphia Eagles are one of the few teams in the NFL that can dominate you on both sides of the ball in the trenches. And that's exactly what happened last year. I was on the sucker play thinking Kirk Cousins could go into Philly and handle business. But,
I was there with you.
But at the end of the day, like Philly, we didn't know how legit they were at the time. It was early in the season. And, what's really changed for the Vikings from last year to this year? Really, I mean, off the rip, their center, Garrett Bradbury, he's out. Their best offensive lineman, Christian Darrisaw, the left tackle, he is highly questionable from Vikings beat reporters. There's rumors swirling around that he's most likely not going to play. If that is the case, how do we not see the Philadelphia Eagles pick up where the Tampa Bay Bucks left off last week? The front four, getting after Kirk Cousins, keeping him under duress. I think that's really the area where you have to look at, because it always starts up front. The Eagles, if they're able to stop the run, put all the pressure on Cousins to drop back 40 plus times, they're going to be gearing up for the pass. And, the Eagles secondary, even without James Bradbury and Reed Blankenship, they're still probably better than the Tampa Bay secondary. So we can expect maybe some more fireworks from the secondary like we saw from Darius Slay last week. And I think it's a tough matchup for Minnesota. I really do. I don't know how Cousins is going to be kept upright. I don't know how Minnesota is going to consistently run the ball either. This is a tough one for this offense.
Now, we saw last year Darius Slay put the clampers on your man Justin Jefferson. He got a couple picks, basically held Justin Jefferson down, one of the few people that can do it. So don't think we'll see that again this year. Obviously, Jefferson got a lot of pride. So now we'll get to picking this game and getting some props a little bit later on. But I want to talk about some of the line movement we have seen this week on some of these Sunday games. Let's start, Johnny, with what I think is going to be a fantastic matchup in Atlanta. Your Falcons at home. This line opened up Atlanta -1.5 last night and / this morning. It got to Packers -1.5. And oh boy, what do you know? The Atlanta Falcons are back to being a 1.5 point favorite. 40.5 is the total on this one. That total seems light, Johnny V. Feel like a pump fake on that one. All right, let's go. Let's get ready to break this one down. What do you say, JV?
Yeah, so as you alluded to, the line movement has been crazy. I mean, if you right now in real time at 6:04 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, you look at a couple different books, you're going to see Atlanta as a favorite in one and Atlanta as an underdog in another. So yep. I don't really understand what to make of it. I don't know why the line crossed 0 from Green Bay as the favorite to Atlanta as the favorite. The only thing that I could take away from that, Corey Parson, was the fact that Green Bay is dealing with cluster injuries at the moment. It looks like Aaron Jones, he's on the wrong side of questionable. Christian Watson, again, is on the wrong side of questionable. Quay Walker, key linebacker, Rashawn Gary, linebacker, questionable. I think because Green Bay's dealing with a lot of injuries, we're seeing Atlanta take a little bit more money at home. I wasn't really impressed with the Falcons in week 1. I watched that game very closely. I'm not a big fan of Arthur Smith in general. And now as a Drake London owner, I really don't like him. I think Green Bay's defense is pretty good. I still think Atlanta will be able to run the ball here. I think that one's going to come down to the wire. True pick'em, pretty much. I think it'll probably close at. I will go with Atlanta if you make me go with a pick that actually is going to be in my survivor this week. Hold my nose. I hate betting the Falcons. I never bet the Falcons. They are just dream killers.
How many entries do you have, Johnny? Let's discuss this before you lose an entry for real.
I have 3 entries in the Circa Million. So
understand
the Survivor. No, Survivor's 1. I'm not touching Atlanta at all this year.
Oh, okay, I got you.
so for just to reiterate, in the Circa Millions, 3 entries, I have to come up with 15 picks every week. Now, I try not to go 3 picks in every entry, like 1 pick across the board. The most I'll go is 2 unless I really love something. So I have to come up with other games that to me is like 50-50. This being one of them, I think, the coin for me would land on the side of the Falcons. This is not a great play for me. I am not giving this out on my official week 2 slate, but the win to me at home with Atlanta with a strong run game. Bijan looked great in his 14, 15 touches. I feel like there's enough horsepower here for Atlanta against a limited Green Bay team.
I agree with you. I think this is a pick'em game. This is a down to the last drive type contest. I would actually do this. This is the way. If I was to take this one to the window, JV, I am going the over 40 and a half. This total is real light. If you ask me, I think this is an Atlanta Falcons 23-20 overtime victory. Not willing to take that point spread to the window, but I do think the total crosses over. So tomorrow night on Big Bets, we'll get into this game a little bit more in all of the games. You know what I'm saying? But wanted to get some your thoughts on some of this line movement action going on. Giants and Cardinals. Giants just got their ass kicked by America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, a 40-burger, 40-0 right there in your beloved New Jersey. This week, they got to go on the road, face the Arizona Cardinals. Total low, 39.5. Giants was a 5.5-point favorite, then a 5-point favorite. Now they're in a 4.5-point favorite. JV, regardless, the Giants, this is about as big as a must-win for the Giants as you can have coming off that disgusting performance on Sunday night. But do I like the Giants enough to lay this number with them?
I'll be honest. I'm not touching this game with a 10-foot pole.
Okay.
I saw some 6s too, and I'm like, listen, I know Arizona is the worst team in football. The Giants just got mopped by 40. But let's be honest, dude. Even though Washington's not a world beater, if you watch that game, Arizona stood up. Arizona was tough. They were competitive. They looked like they wanted to win. And obviously, it sounds crazy to say that, but they really believe they're a team that can compete. Whether we believe it or not is a completely different story. I wouldn't touch this game, but based on the way the Giants played, I would back New York because they are a good roster. And I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a big day, both in the receiving game and
the ground Barkley
game.
A lot. I agree with you, and I like Barkley a lot on Sunday.
I feel like Daniel Jones is going to have a much better game. We also have to take it into perspective. That was a rivalry game in the NFC East between the Cowboys and Giants. The Cowboys have had New York's number for a long time. They have one of maybe arguably the best defense in football.
The best.
So it's a dramatic shift in talent that they're going to be facing. On the road, maybe getting away from the Big Apple for a week is exactly what they need. I wasn't impressed by Arizona's offense, though. They did not look good. So I think the Giants can do enough to cover this number. 4.5 is fair, but again, this is not one I'm touching at all. It's Giants or pass for me all the way.
Yeah, no, the total in this one is a little bit low, too. I worry about the Arizona Cardinals scoring. I may look at the Arizona Cardinals team total on the under. They didn't score a touchdown last week. They got a defensive play. Or maybe it was a special teams play to score last week. So tough spot, but I do think the Giants bounce back in that game right there. Let's go to Tennessee, to Nashville. Titans home for the Chargers. Chargers come in. That critical number. That short road favorite. Chargers laying 3 on the road. The total is 45.5 in this one. These two teams met in Los Angeles late last year. 17-14 was the final score. Chargers.
I mean, Chargers really broke my heart last week, the way they played against Miami.
Who you telling? I had them in a 3-team parlay. The first two legs cashed.
You know what? The Chargers are going to be a team that I'm going to be wary of for most of the year, at least till they figure it out. Unfortunately for my fantasy team, it looks like Austin Eckler is probably not going to play with an ankle injury. Josh Kelly looked pretty good, though.
He did.
In relief of Eckler last week. Tennessee does have a good defense, especially in the front seven. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is one of the best defensive players in football, and he's not talked about because he plays for a bad team in Tennessee. But at the end of the day, I still think the Chargers would be the side I play, -3 on the road, because at the end of the day, like, Tennessee doesn't have the horses in the secondary for me to sit there and say they're going to completely shut down what these Charger receivers can do. On the flip side, I do think Tennessee will be able to move the ball in this Chargers D, mainly on the ground. King Henry should eat against a bad LA run defense. I would also like sprinkling in on the over here at 45.5. I do think Tennessee can get to 23, 24 points. And I think LA is more than capable of getting to 26, 27, 28. So it's weird, though. You would not really associate a ground team with scoring a lot of points with the way Tennessee can play. But, dude, Derrick Henry can pop 60-yard touchdowns, as well as anybody can. So I think there is a path here for the over, believe it or not. But the Chargers would be the side for me at -3 for sure.
Oh, this one right here. If you're going to this one right here is a very tough thing. Because the Chargers do play better on the road. If I had to take it to the window, you're right. I would go with the Chargers. I probably would back the under in an official play. Matter of fact, the executive betting cheat sheet out now on the Substack. I just tweeted it out a little bit long ago. You can get all my plays for this week as it stands right now over there. So those are the 3 games we wanted to touch on and focus on right quick. Now I want to break out the Odds Jam Fantasy Optimizer, look at some stuff for Underdog Fantasy. If you're not down on Underdog Fantasy yet, there is a link in the description box. Hit that. Match your deposit right then and there from the executive network right to your account. All right, Johnny VTV. I just looked at these. This is not something that I'm playing, but let's me and you talk through some of these ones that they like tonight. Get your opinion. Let's start with Rashad Penny, under 7 rushing attempts. Obviously, tonight, not going to see Kenneth Gainwell. Rashad Penny lower than 7 rushing attempts.
I'd probably go to the higher 7.5 because if we're being honest, no Kenneth Gainwell. It's going to be most likely between DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, sprinkling in a little Boston Scott. I think especially if the Eagles get a lead on the Vikings like they did last year in the second half, we're going to see a lot of ground attempts. Penny was a healthy scratch last week. I think, he could be in the ballpark of 10 carries. Behind DeAndre Swift, maybe looking at 12. Jalen Hurts, I expect to run a lot. So Rashad Penny, to me, getting 8 carries seems like something that is very feasible.
See, I think it's like right on the number, so it's a little bit tough for me. So I probably would lay off this one. If I had to go anyway, I would go opposite. I would go lower on those attempts right there. Here's an interesting one that could give you a correlation into what they think about this game. Jalen Hurts higher than 31.5 passing attempts. If Jalen Hurts throws the ball 32 times a night, then the Eagles are in trouble.
I agree. But the thing you have to look at is the efficiency. Like,
okay,
a lot of times with Philadelphia, they can go sustain a 10-play drive, but also we've seen them go 3 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown.
Johnny, they take the air out the football in the second half every single game.
They do, but last year they did that because they were playing teams with 20-point leads in the second half. And, I do think that is definitely the case, but seeing Jalen Hurts throw the ball 31 times isn't exactly something that would be alarming to me. Like, if he threw 32, 33 times, I think that's more than fair. But to be honest, I would likely go with lower than 31 just because I do agree that we should see a lot of rushing attempts from Philadelphia tonight, one way or the other, whether that's Hurts, whether that's Swift, Scott, Penny, whatever it is. I feel like maybe Hurts goes 28, 29 passing attempts, maybe 23 completions, has himself a day. And yeah, I'd probably go lower.
All right, let's go. This is right here. Let's go. Justin Jefferson. Is Justin Jefferson going to bounce back in this matchup tonight versus the Philadelphia Eagles secondary? The reception number at Underdog Fantasy is set at 7 receptions for Jay Jettis, Justin Jefferson. We going higher or lower than 7 receptions for Jeff?
I think 7 is pretty accurate. I
It's
think
on
7,
the number, of course.
it could be
Why
right
wouldn't
on
it
the
be? Yeah,
it could be right on the number. I think he had 6 catches last year against them, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of it was garbage time. But, to be honest, I think I'd probably go higher. Jefferson knows what happened last year in Philadelphia.
I agree.
I would expect the Vikings to be playing from behind. Kirk Cousins is going to be throwing the ball a lot. And even if Jefferson doesn't have an efficient game, 7 grabs is feasible for this guy. We saw what he did against Tampa Bay secondary last week, 9 for $150. I will go higher. I think Jettis follows up his week 1 masterpiece with another Picasso.
All right, there you go right there. Let's go to the next one right here. KJ Osborne, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver receptions. Underdog Fantasy stat line is set at 3. You're going higher or lower than 3 receptions for KJ Osborne?
I'm probably going to go lower. I think the Jordan Addison addition is great for Minnesota, and that's also what's going to help Justin Jefferson. At the same time, Osborne is really the number 3 if we're being honest, but the number 4
behind Hockenson, really, yeah.
But if you include Hockenson, he's the number 4. I just don't know if there's going to be enough targets to go for him, and then if he does, is he going to haul him in? KJ Osborne is typically a downfield threat. I just don't know if I see Kirk Cousins finding him more than 3 times this evening. So I would go lower there.
All right, the final one I want to get you what just the aforementioned. Matter of fact, I got 2 more. Yeah, I got 2 more because I want to bring up your boy DeAndre Swift. TJ Hockenson, fantasy Underdog Fantasy stat line set at 5 receptions. I tell you right now, I'm going higher than 5 receptions higher than 5 receptions for Hockenson.
This sounds good in theory, and I think it's definitely possible. Quick outs. Kirk Cousins will be looking to get the ball out of his hand very fast tonight, right? But I saw a stat: 4.5 catches to the over is being bet at 99% at MGM.
Okay.
So
you might want to fade that, huh?
A lot of times when you get these player props, that's 99% to the over, 99% to the under. A lot of times the other way hits. So just kind of fading what everybody else is doing. I'd probably say less than 5. I mean, it'd be right. It'd be really poetic if he got 4 on the nose, right? And just missed that 5. So I think Hawkinson's in for like 4 catches, 50 yards, maybe sneaks a tutty. I don't know if 5's in the cards just because I'm looking to fade everybody else, but the matchup and the game plan probably would call for him to go higher, but I'm going to go lower.
All right, DeAndre Swift fantasy stat line for rushing attempts set at 8.5, higher or lower?
Nick Sirianni does not like to commit to a back. He did that with Miles Sanders a couple years ago. At the end, though, I think they're going to run the ball a lot, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and go higher. Just if we're going in the same direction of the Eagles are going to be up in the second half, Swift is probably going to see some carries, and 9 carries is not a lot. Like I don't think Swift's going to get 15, 16 tonight, but I think somewhere between 9 and 12 is a fair assessment if the game is going to go in the direction that I think it will. So I'll give the higher to DeAndre Swift. But watch Sirianni doesn't even play him because that's just what he does.
I am going to go with the lower. The lower. Excuse me, on DeAndre Swift. All right, DeAndre Swift receiving yards. The fantasy stat line on Underdog is set at 15.5. Higher or lower?
I'm going to go lower, and the reason is Philadelphia is not one of these teams that checks the ball down to the running backs. They don't dink and dunk. Jalen Hurts looks for the big play downfield. If he doesn't have it, he takes off. They don't design screens for the running backs a lot. That's also one of the reasons why I didn't like DeAndre Swift in fantasy this year, coming over from Detroit, which is like where he thrived in that role. So I'm going to go lower. I don't think Swift gets a ton of work in the receiving game. Maybe he pops one big run on a short check down or something like that, but odds are, I think he stays under this number or lower than this number, excuse me.
Jordan Addison's fantasy stat lines are not in the Odds Jam Optimizer, or they're not at the top of the list. What do you think? You think Addison has a night tonight?
I do. I think Addison, because James Bradbury is out, we're going to see Darius Slay on Jefferson a lot tonight, if I had to take a guess, which means Addison's going to be dealing with the backup corners. He's going to be dealing with the number 3 corners, the number 4s, depending on what kind of coverage they're rolling, if they're going to run zone. I think Addison's in for a good night. I actually like Addison to score a touchdown tonight. It's not an official play, but I've seen Addison pass 2-1 for an anytime touchdown. And I think that's a good value. He's somebody that can really eat because Jefferson is just taking so much attention.
All right, Underdog Fantasy. You can play in fantasy stats-based pick'em contest on Underdog Fantasy. Hit the link in the bio and double your deposit. On Sunday, I was in a daily draft over at Underdog Fantasy. We gave that joint a run to the top of that joint. Got pretty close, JVTV, but it didn't happen. Who do we have? We had a stack of Jacksonville Jaguars to go along with Aaron Jones, but I also had Christian Kirk in the lineup, and I had just missed Tyreek Hill. That could have been the moneymaker right there, but we'll give it a run again this weekend. You should give it a run as well. Hit the link in the description. All right, JV, let's get ready to put the hammer into it. Philadelphia Eagles, Minnesota Vikings. Eagles currently right now, let me get a good look at the numbers, still sitting at 6, total at 49. I will start it off. This is a tough game, but man, oh man. This is a tough one right here because I think that the Vikings are going to put up a better performance than they did last year. So I'm going to take the 6 with the Vikings. I don't have no play on the total.
Yeah, we're complete opposite here. I think in some capacity,
I was wrong on it last year too, Johnny.
I think the same thing is going to happen last year as it does tonight. I feel like the Vikings will put up a better performance. I think the Vikings will be a lot more competitive in the second half, but I could see Philadelphia pulling away late in the third quarter and kind of sitting on the rock in the fourth quarter. The thing is, I alluded to it earlier, you're definitely missing your center, and you are most likely missing your best offensive lineman, left tackle Christian Darrisaw, who's a dog, who's a difference maker against a ferocious Philly pass rush, despite missing a few key guys on this defense.
Is it still going to be that ferocious tonight?
I think so. I mean, Philadelphia didn't play great at New England. New England is known for, game scripting, knowing how to play their opponents with Bill Belichick, of course. That's a little bit different this year. I just don't know where Minnesota is going to really thrive tonight. I mean, I don't expect Alexander Mattison to have a great game. I don't expect Vikings to run the ball that well. Really going to go pass heavy most likely, and their defense isn't that good. Like Tampa Bay could have put up a lot more points if Baker Mayfield wasn't their quarterback last week. If we're being totally honest, I think Philadelphia at home in a game that like they want to play better than they did, and Minnesota to me like regression is coming. I just didn't think that they were going to be that great coming into this year. 6 points. That's perfect for me. This line was 7.5 at one point. It's come down 1.5 points in the last 48 hours. That's a crazy movement. People are like, oh, well, they're going to play better this time. Kirk Cousins off a loss. He's been better in prime time. Since 2020, he's 5-2 against the spread.
I'm not buying that prime.
I don't care. That to me, that's a meaningless trend. That doesn't mean anything to me. We're looking at matchups in the trenches. Philly has a convincing advantage on both sides of the ball, and they have an advantage at quarterback. It's just they're a better overall team playing at home on a short week. I don't really see it for Minnesota. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have Philly in 2 of my circuit entries at -6 this week, and I hate Thursday night games, but I feel that good about it.
All right, Johnny V feels good about the Philadelphia Eagles tonight. I am not as convinced on the Vikings. I would not have put it in my Circa Millions ticket, but Johnny V has that. The total, if I think the Vikings are covering the spread, that means I think the total goes over the number. Would you, if you think Philadelphia is laying it successfully, you think the total is under?
Yeah, I'd probably go under here because I think Philadelphia scores 27 points, maybe 28. The Vikings 17, something along that line. That would just, I think that would just be missing the over there. So I could see this total end up hitting right around 46, 47, just narrowly escaping with an under. Not an official play, but that's the way I think the game is going to flow.
All right, that's Johnny V TV. I'm Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Now, this was a quick little hitter to get you ready for Thursday night football, but the big show is tomorrow night. Big bets. Fantasy exec and Johnny V, we take our time. We go game to game, give you some survivor advice, give you some against the spread advice, everything you need to have a successful Sunday, like the two homies you're watching on the screen. So make sure you check back here tomorrow night. That's going to be recorded, should be posted by 8 p.m. Eastern time. For Johnny VTV, is Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Let's get this money. We out.